Good evening and welcome to the August 13th, 2024 Planning and Zoning Commission's meeting. If we can have roll call, please.
Messina.
Here.
Ingalls.
Here.
Fleming.
Here.
McCracken. Here. Ward.
Here.
Coppice.
Here.
Lutrip.
Okay, can you all join me for the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can I have approval of the July 9th Planning and Zoning minutes, please?
I so move.
Second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We're going to go to public comment, and this is anything that anyone wants to address this commission that isn't on our agenda tonight. Not seeing anyone. Staff comments.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
A quick update for you. I don't really have much to report other than we will not have a regular meeting in September, so you have 1 month off.
Oh,
I've been working so hard.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Commission comments. Okay, we're going to other business. This is going to be presented by Monty from the Trails. He's the Trails Coordinator for the city. Monty, go ahead. Good evening.
So I have a short presentation about priority corridors. And this is a project that the Ped Bike Committee has been working on for several years. It involves getting some much-needed sidewalks in certain parts of town. So, quick little summary of the history of Coeur d'Alene and ordinances. We've been around about 130 years. As the town's grown and times have changed, we've added things like sewer, water, electricity. Most places in the country added sidewalks around the 50s, 60s, 70s. We did around the 70s. Unfortunately, a good chunk of our town was already built by then. So as you notice, the further east you get on Sherman around there, you have a lot of areas missing sidewalks. And so, which is all right, some neighborhoods don't really need sidewalks as much, but there are some places that really do need it. Corridors to schools, to places where kids walk a lot, where you don't want people walking in the streets. And so this presentation is about changing some of that. So their objective is to create a complete sidewalk network in Coeur d'Alene. That doesn't mean sidewalks in front of every house. It just means in our priority corridors. So the connectivity will help reduce the number of pedestrians who have to walk in the street. It'll help us increase our walkability rating. I don't know if you know, but we have a silver rating, bike-friendly community status in the nation. We only achieved honorable mention for walking. We're not a very walkable city. And so the Ped Bike Committee has been working on ways to enhance that, to get more people walking. And I know we have put a lot of money in repairing sidewalks over the past 20 years or so, but we're still missing a lot of it throughout the city. So our current municipal code, and we're talking about infill, because right now, ever since the 70s, new construction, you get a sidewalk. But old construction, when things are getting rebuilt, you don't necessarily get one if you meet certain criteria. So we don't require new sidewalks unless an existing sidewalk is within 450 feet of the new development. So if the next block doesn't have one and you're rebuilding your neighborhoods to the east, most of it is. When you combine it together, you can see that we're missing about 30% of the city doesn't have sidewalks. So the identified corridors, we have about 12 of them, and most of them have to do with schools, like I said. All of them have to do with children. So we have 6 under Coeur d'Alene High access, 3 under Fernan, 1 under Winton, and 2 for the Croc Center. Of course, the Croc Center corridor leads to a lot of schools. There's like 4 or 5 on that trail alone. And so staff time in changing the ordinance.
Questions, Monty?
So Monty, I noticed it says action required. So you're looking for a recommendation. You're going to take this to council for
Yes.
the decision. So
On your
you want to be able
recommendation.
to go and say that the planning and zoning commission is unanimously in support, right?
Yeah.
That's what you want to say.
Yes, exactly.
All right, thank you.
All right, well, that being said, John,
I motion that we would make a recommendation to the city council that we support the exemption change to the ordinance.
Seconded.
I have a first and then
Seconded.
I have a second by Copus. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? If not, okay, recommendation to the council. Appreciate it. Next, we're going to go into our public hearing, and there are sign-up sheets. And the first one is the Coeur d'Alene Hockey Academy. And if you want to speak on this, hopefully you signed up and I can read your names on the sign-up sheet. If for some reason you didn't sign up or you changed your mind that you do want to speak, if you indicated you didn't want to speak, before I close public comment or public testimony, I'll have you guys come up. So that being said, Mike?
All right, thanks. Good evening, Commissioners. This is a public hearing for item A-1-24. The applicant is Sean and Renee Lutine. They're represented by MacArthur Engineering. The applicant is requesting annexation of 5.1 acres in conjunction with zoning approval from county commercial to C-17 commercial zoning district on property that is located at 3505 West Celtice Way. Legal notice was published in the Coeur d'Alene Press on July 27th, 2024, and all other required notifications have been made. Here's a location map indicating where this property is located within the city. This is I-90, this is Atlas, and this is the roundabout on Celtice. Celtice is on the front here. This is a Frontier Ice Arena to the north of it, and in 2021, the Frontier Ice Arena was annexed into the city with C-17 zoning. Here's a close-up aerial photograph of this property, highlighted in red. This is Celtice to the bottom, and then once again, Frontier Ice Arena to the north. Here's a bird's eye view looking north. And this is an illustration of showing that the subject property is located within the city's area of city impact. The applicant has submitted a record of survey for this annexation indicating the exact area to be annexed. Here's the existing zoning. So the property is currently zoned county commercial, and to the north is C-17 in the city, and also to the east is to the west is C-17, and also some county commercial to the west. To the south, we have C-17 PUD and C-17L PUD. And to the east, we have county commercial. The C-17 district is intended as a broad spectrum commercial district that permits limited service, wholesale retail, and heavy commercial, in addition to allowing residential development at a density of 17 units per acre. This district should be located adjacent to arterials. However, the joint access developments are encouraged. Here's a list of some of the principal permitted uses in the C-17 district: automotive sales, commercial recreation, department stores, and community education. The full list is on page 5 of the staff report. There are 4 findings that need to be met in order for an annexation to be approved. Finding B1 through B4. We'll go through each one of these, starting with B1. That the proposal is or is not in conformance with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan indicates the subject site is located within the general industrial place type. And place types represent the form of future development as envisioned by residents of Coeur d'Alene. Place types will in turn provide the policy level guidance that will inform the city's development ordinance. Each place type corresponds to multiple zoning districts that will provide a high level of detail and regulatory guidance. This property, the comprehensive plan, when it was being developed back in 2022, had indicated this area was going to be highly industrial. That this was like, we didn't have very much manufacturing in the city, so they thought there's large agriculture tracts located here, that someday this may be good for manufacturing. But in recent times, we've had a trend in development towards C-17 across the road on this side of the road and on the south side. These next 2 slides represent comprehensive plan goals and objectives as it relates to this annexation request. The first one is under community identity. A goal would be to maintain high quality of life for residents and businesses that make Coeur d'Alene a great place to live and visit. And the objective would be to maintain the community's friendly, welcoming atmosphere and its small town feel. The next goal would be under education and learning and provide an educational environment that provides open access to resources for all people. And the objective would be to provide abundant opportunities for and access to lifelong learning, fostering mastery of new skills, academic enrichment, mentoring programs, and personal growth. See attachment 2 of the staff report for the full comprehensive plan goals and objectives. The next finding is finding B2, that public facilities and utilities are or are not available and adequate for the proposed use. City staff from streets and engineering, water, fire, parks, police, and wastewater departments have reviewed the application request in regards to public utilities and public facilities. And each department has indicated there are adequate public facilities and public utilities available for the proposed annexation with C-17 zoning. See staff's full comments on page 16 and 17 of the staff report. The next finding is finding B3, that the physical characteristics of the site do or do not make it suitable for the request at this time. The site is generally flat that slightly slopes to the southwest. There is an approximately 25-foot drop in elevation on the subject property. The western portion of the site is vacant and is relatively flat to accommodate future development site for the Coeur d'Alene Hockey Academy. Here's that topographical map indicating the topography. Each white line is a 5-foot drop in elevation. Here's some site photos. This is on the southwest corner, looking 63 evening peak hour trips. And the school will generate approximately 95 morning peak hour trips. The applicant has submitted a conceptual site plan indicating how they propose to develop the property. This is the existing structures here, and the applicant is proposing a new facility located here with parking to the south and around the building. Here's a land use map indicating the surrounding land uses. To the north, we have commercial. To the west, we got multifamily and also a single-family house here. We got some commercial uses to the south and some multifamily under construction at this site. And to the east, we have some large agricultural tracts. There are 7 recommended items to include the annexation agreement. They're at the end of your staff report. So the Planning Commission is tasked with recommending zoning for the annexation request. The commission shall provide a recommendation regarding the requested C-17 zoning to City Council, along with an evaluation of how the proposed annexation does or does not meet the required evaluation criteria for the requested annexation. You will need to consider this request for C-17 zoning in conjunction with annexation and make findings to recommend that the City Council adopt the requested C-17 zoning with or without the conditions to be included in the annexation agreement, or reject the requested C-17 zoning. And that concludes my presentation.
I have a question. On decision on C1, you give it a few options. When it says the existing industrial milling operation manufacturing use must be removed from the site within 90 days of annexation, which is a close, or prior to a building permit or site development permit is issued, whichever comes first. I get the last 2 parts, but I think there may be a very long gap between one or the other. I would choose to either go with the annexation removal, or I'd go with the permit removal. I think it's a little too gray and loose.
So you're saying strike the 90 days?
Yeah, I'd strike the 90 days.
So if it goes on for 2 or 3 years, that's,
Well, life is,
Okay.
money
that's
is
up
what
to
it
the
is.
commission. We just thought as staff,
The gun doesn't necessarily go off when the annexation, happens.
staff was in communication with the client, or the applicant as well. So, I mean, they're here to answer any questions in regard to that 90 days as well.
Okay, and it could be either or. I just think
Yep.
it's a little too blurry.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
John, you had a question?
Thanks, Mike, for your presentation. Always great. I had 2 questions, and the first one I think you covered, and that is that the land use map calls this industrial, and the allowable, or not allowable, but the
Recommended.
suggested zoning is manufacturing and whatnot, not C-17. But as I understand, the land use map is a guide, quote unquote, and you point out that, there's been other examples where, because, our vision years ago has changed, kind of not unlike Schreiber, that was supposed to be manufacturing.
Right.
And there's so many special use permits in there, it's really become
Special
morphed into something else. Maybe this is one of those?
Yeah, that is correct. I think at the time that the comp plan was developed, it was envisioning light manufacturing, but I think the actual thing that's happening is the C-17, the commercial, is the trend of development.
That said, in your opinion as a planner, you would find this to be compatible with what you see there.
I think the C-17 is very compatible with this area.
Thank you. Another question, if you wouldn't mind, could you pull up this picture here, perhaps? One at the bottom here. So one of the conditions here, number 6, talks about, when this comes into the city, that I guess they have to get these buildings into City of Coeur d'Alene versus county building code. So any code violations that are in there, we're not just going to allow those to be grandfathered. They're going to have to, if there's a missing step somewhere or something's not right, it has to get fixed.
That's correct. The building department will have to go through and they'll have to pull a change use permit to get the buildings up to code.
So when I looked at this, I said, well, that makes sense to me, but what about the other city department purviews like planning with respect to parking and landscaping of parking? That's a pretty ugly parking lot. And I guess I'm guessing that when the new sheet of ice comes and so forth and whatnot, and there is a sketch in there showing the future. But are we okay with it looking like this until, what's the trigger point that this ugly parking lot gets brought up to something that looks like a city standard?
Yeah, but the change use permit probably won't trigger the parking requirement, but the new building is going to trigger that, all the landscaping to be put in and all the 6-inch curbing and the striping of the lot and all that.
That makes good sense to me. Thank you, Mike.
Bill?
Yeah, Mike, thank you very much. I need a couple of questions, and it shows the easiest on the bird's eye area, which is on page 3 of the packet we received. I have a couple of questions. And looking at that, where are the current city of Coeur d'Alene boundaries?
On the bird's eye view,
Yes,
that wasn't illustrated on there. It's not illustrated on this bird's eye view. It's illustrated on the,
The area that's outlined as the subject property.
Yeah.
None of that is in the county, and the city, right? It's all in the county?
this property's all in the county.
Okay, but there is a small building shown as C-17 right above it on one of the aerials. And I'm assuming that if you go to page 4, in the upper left, it shows a C-17, yeah, right
Here's
there.
this is C-17 zoning in the city.
That is in the city.
That is correct.
That's all that's in that area that's in the city unless we cross Celtics.
Yeah, I think I have a better illustration of the city limits.
That was it.
This green area is all in the county, or this little island or donut hole, what do you call it? This is all in the county, and the city is surrounding it right here.
Okay.
This is all the city.
Right.
This is in the county.
Okay, other than, the property right now has a skating rink, and it also has a hockey school on it, as I understand, they're combined in some way.
You'll have to talk to the applicant on how those two businesses interact, but the Frontier Ice Arena is on a separate parcel owned by separate people. This is the Coeur d'Alene Hockey Academy School
Okay,
that works with the Frontier Ice Arena for their facilities, and I think the applicant can better speak to how
understand.
that works.
but the hockey academy would be independent of, as far as physically on the property. It's a separate structure from the ice rink.
That is correct.
And is there any reason why, if that's all there legally right now, they need to be incorporated into the city. Not that I object to that, I'm just curious as to why.
That'd be a good question for the applicant. They're allowed to apply for annexation.
That's all, thank you, Mike.
Mark, you had a couple questions?
Yeah, Mike, I just got one, and it may be for you or maybe for Hillary, so I don't know. But this is the second time in my time up here where I've heard of some form of industrial, whether it's light industrial or in this case, industrial zoned property or zoned areas within the city, turning to something else. Both cases, it was commercial, I think. Is there a picture of how much industrial capacity the city has? And is there concerns from the city about it being reduced?
Well, right now, this property isn't manufacturing, and we have our zoning map that shows all our manufacturing areas.
It's
and
zoned as an industrial,
It's zone county commercial now.
oh, it is,
But
okay. I
our
thought-
comp plan is indicating light manufacturing and manufacturing, like
Okay.
this was envisioned in the future to be a manufacturing area. But it hasn't come to fruition for that. But we do have a large manufacturing area up on Schreiber Way that's a pretty significant area. And we have some other manufacturing areas. And
Yeah, the
if
Shriver
someone
Way-
wanted to come
yeah.
back, the comp plan still indicates this is manufacturing. So if someone wanted to come back 5, 10 years later, say, I want to zone this to manufacturing, the comp plan indicates that, they would be able to
Okay,
apply for that.
thanks, Mike.
And Mike, we are just, or Hillary, or Randy, we're just making a recommendation, even though we're doing findings. City council, when this goes to them, they will have
They will approve
decision
it
of changing
or deny
this
it. yeah.
particular item. So we're just doing a recommendation, but still doing our findings. All right, okay. Thanks, Mike. Okay, have the applicant come on up. Just state your name, the city you live in, and I'll swear you in.
Hi, good evening, Scott MacArthur, MacArthur Engineering. As well
And
as-
do you solemnly swear and/or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Help you God.
I do.
Go right ahead, Scott.
All right, thank you. I haven't said I do in 15 years, so thank you. Just kidding. Good evening, Scott MacArthur, MacArthur Engineering. Ryan Casper, Director of Operations, Coeur d'Alene Hockey Academy. Mike did a great job throughout this whole process. I just want to thank him for that. Just to kind of answer some of the questions, and then I'll go to probably spur some more questions. This use does complement the hockey, the ice arena that's adjacent to us. The two separate owners, complementary uses, I think probably had something to do with this location for the selection for Coeur d'Alene Hockey Academy. So the other uses in the area consist of gyms and recreational uses and residential uses. I know that the old, as a kid, the YJ's stockyard was next door. And so I know that is, that area, everything's growing and everything's changing. And so the land use map is kind of a guideline, as Mr. Harry said. So this use, as it sits in the county right now, does complement the use that is in the city of Coeur d'Alene. And again, I feel it's a great fit for the city of Coeur d'Alene. We do have no objections to the recommendations for the annexation agreement. We are working diligently with the city planners, engineers, and building department. We've had several visits to the property just to get a jump start on bringing this building into conformance. Any issues, we're already addressing them. So, we have a good relationship with the city staff to just take care of those problems. Shouldn't call them problems. Upgrades to the site. So, currently, there's roughly 60 students that'll be enrolled this August, the end of this month, in this academy. Plans to double, maybe even triple that. It's a great facility, offering educational and recreational learning and growth for these young athletes. The new facility will offer a wide variety of sporting opportunities. I attend Real Life Ministries in Post Falls. We built a field house and a field that provided a plethora of sporting opportunities, and that has just taken off. And that's similar to what this field house will do for this area. It won't just be used just for the Coeur d'Alene Hockey Academy. It will be a sporting facility that we hope to incorporate youth programs in as well. And that's why you see the parking layout the way you see it. Trying to go down my list. I was jotting down notes. Sometimes you can't read your own handwriting, you We have no objections to, again, the recommendations. If the commission would like to strike that 90 days, I think that's still in our plan, but we have no objection to that at this time.
Okay.
This is infill property. It makes sense from an engineering standpoint, in my professional opinion, to bring this into the city of Coeur d'Alene. I used to work at this facility when it was Go-Kart Family Fun. I was, shouldn't say I was 14. I was 14 and had a job. So I loved working there, and it's crazy to see what it's become in that area, but it's amazing. So, and there was a question about the legality of bringing this into the city. There's really no legality. Just bringing it into the city will allow city services, water, sewer, to serve the facility, which allows the growth that is needed to continue to grow this educational and future sporting opportunities for the youth. So I'll stand for any more questions.
John, go right ahead.
Thank you for that. There's one sort of concern, not a great one, I don't think, that maybe you could eliminate any concern. There's a statement that the city engineer indicated that if an event drew more than 192 vehicles, they could have overflow parking impacts.
Okay, yeah, it's a simple.
Share with me why we're not going to have cars parked on Celtis and into somebody's neighborhood and people parking in the apartments and all of that, please.
Currently, there's a shared parking agreement in place between the ice arena and this facility. And that will continue. It'll actually grow and be more defined once we have this site plan approved from the city. And so we'll have additional parking, and those events would be at the ice arena or in the 2 sheets of ice once we have the new facility established. So we'll have a shared parking agreement between the 2 properties, and that document will govern that use. And again, the owners and the complementary uses will just go hand in hand on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No, not at this time, Scott. If we have any other questions that come up, you'll have an opportunity to come up later.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Excuse me, I have Dennis Spencer as opposed, but did not indicate whether you want to speak or not. Okay, Sally Spencer is opposed and did not indicate if you wanted to speak or not. And that's all I have. So if there's anyone else here that didn't sign up for this and does want to speak, come on up. If not, I'll ask Scott if he has anything to add from what he just said. If not, I'm going to close the public testimony on this and bring it to the commissioners for a little bit of discussion and a recommendation by the findings, please. Pretty quiet.
Well, I'd jump in with some discussion
Okay.
and say that, this is an area that it fronts a city street. The first responders that go to that building are probably going to be Coeur d'Alene Police and Fire. It looks like it's in the city. It's addressed in Coeur d'Alene, So, it kind of looks like the city, feels like the city. It's kind of like a duck that walks like a duck and probably belongs in the city. We do have a comp plan goal that talks about, providing diverse recreation options. I'm not a huge hockey fan, but a lot of people are, and I think that this is an opportunity to encourage, public or private recreation facilities for citizens of all ages. So I think it's great.
Thank you, John, for that.
I'm good.
Okay.
I don't see any issues.
Same.
Bringing
Good,
this
we're
in.
all good?
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we have to go
I'll make a
through,
motion.
Yeah,
I'll make a motion.
go right ahead, make that motion.
This matter having come before the Planning and Zoning Commission on August 13th, 2024, to consider A-1-24, a request to recommend that the zoning of 5.1 acres adjacent to Celtis Way, if is suggested or is recommended to be annexed into C17 property. Location is 3505 West Saltese Way, Coeur d'Alene, 83814. The owners are Sean and Renee Lutien. Applicant is MacArthur Engineering, Scott MacArthur. Findings of fact, we've fulfilled all our requirements of postings and notifications across multiple methods. The comp plan A4, the comprehensive plan future land use designates this property as a general industrial place type. This motion will in fact move us out of that into C17. The staff identified comp plan goals and objectives for particular consideration by planning and zoning. In particular, I would like to identify our goal EL3, providing an educational environment that provides open access and resources for all people, providing abundant opportunities for lifelong learning, fostering mastery of new skills, and academic enrichment and mentoring programs. And that the growth and development goal of mixed land uses, this is an adjacency to a compatible and very intertwined sports facility. We also will be improving our walkability and access to this area. And jobs and economy. This will obviously employ a lot of people and bring a lot of interest to the hockey fans that exist in this town. The comp plan is a guide for annexations and land use decisions, and the future land use map in conjunction with goals and policies shall be used for the planning and zoning. And that is just what we've done. We're bringing Donut back into our city since it's an island surrounded by our city. It'll also increase our tax base. Thank you very much. City utilities are all available. All of the departments have weighed in, and those are all met. And that the impact on traffic does not appear to be extreme, except in certain event areas. And the 192 vehicles, that'll be a push. So I don't think we've got a problem there. Conclusions of law. Based on the foregoing findings of fact, the Planning Commission makes the following conclusions of law: that this proposal is in conformance with the comprehensive plan policies. B2, that public facilities and utilities are available and adequate for the proposed use. That B3, that the physical characteristics of the site do make it suitable for this request, particularly where it's relatively flat where the academy is. And I'm going to jump down, comp plan, I got to do one part I want to correct. And finally, that the proposal would not adversely affect the surrounding neighborhood with regard to traffic, neighborhood character, or existing land uses. This decision is the Planning and Zoning Commission, pursuant to the foregoing findings of fact and conclusions of law, has determined that the requested zoning does comply with the required evaluation criteria and recommends that City Council adopt the C17 zoning with the following conditions to be included in an annexation agreement, if Council approves the annexation. One change that I would like to make on point 1 is the existing industrial milling operation manufacturing use must be removed prior to a building permit or site development permit is issued, whichever comes first, therefore omitting the removal from site after 90 days after the annexation. The rest of the points by the city stand as they are. Any additional main extensions will be addressed, and fire hydrants. Any additional water services will have cap fees. This project will fall under policy 716, one lot, one lateral. And any new or existing structures on this parcel must connect to city sewer and pay appropriate sewer cap. And the building department requires the owner to obtain permits for the proposed use. And all existing fire protection systems must be serviced and without any deficiencies prior to annexation may occur. And closing, that's my motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Fleming.
I'll second.
I have a second by McCracken, and before I ask for roll call, Tracy, did you get the change for Lynn? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, roll call.
Fleming,
Yes.
Ingalls,
Yes.
Coppice,
Yes.
McCracken,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Messina.
Yes. Okay. Motion passes. Moving on to our next hearing. It is, the applicant is the city of Coeur d'Alene, in and near North Idaho College campus, University District, creation of a new zoning district and rezoning specified properties. It's 0-2-24. And Hillary, you're going to give us a little update.
I will. Thank you, Chairman. So
Thank
yes,
you.
this is a city council initiated zone change. So this is not something that you see frequently coming before you. And I'll kind of talk about what this proposal is and what Planning and Zoning Commission's role is in the process. But it is for the creation of a new zoning district that would be in our zoning code. So it would now be listed with the other zoning districts if city council does adopt this. And the request is also to rezone specified properties, and we'll walk you through the map showing the properties that are within that boundary. So right here is the location map showing the proposed U district boundaries in black. So you can see it's here, the Hubbard Avenue is kind of on the north. You have Rosenberry Drive along the edge. This property here is actually outside of city limits, so you'll notice it doesn't extend past the road. So there's that, and then it follows Hubbard here, and then follows River Avenue, and then there's parcel here right next to Northwest Boulevard that is not part of the North Idaho College campus. That's BLM and the railroad property as well. So the decision point this evening is, should the Planning and Zoning Commission make a recommendation to the City Council to adopt Article 17 of Chapter 1705 of the Municipal Code, which would create a new zoning district called University District for land located in and near North Idaho College campus and rezone specified properties. So all legal notices have been met. So we did the publication in the Coeur d'Alene Press on July 27th. 115 notices were sent out. North Idaho College did receive that. So we have verified all those had went out. That includes the notification is required for anything within the boundary of what's requested for the zone change and within 300 feet of the external boundaries. We also provided notice to all of the political subdivisions, which would be the school district, the highway districts, water districts, and the gas pipeline companies. And then we also posted the property in 4 locations on the external kind of perimeter at the vehicular access locations. So a little bit of background on this. So City Council, as noted, had requested this. There's been some talk and concern in the community for a couple years about the possibility of North Idaho College, if it were to lose accreditation, of possibly selling off property and what that would look like. You know, would that look like high-end residential development or commercial, or what would happen, and what is the risk of that? And so this is largely in response to that. And so the University District staff looked at other communities throughout the state and other states that have very similar university districts in place in their zoning code that is a little bit, it has more specificity. So right now, and I'll show you kind of on some of the maps showing the existing zoning, but it's largely residential zoning and commercial with a PUD, which is a planned unit development over a portion of it, versus a university district that would be very specific to say these are the types of uses that are allowed. So that's really, the purpose is to support and enhance educational environment of public institutions of higher education, and then also to really have kind of that collaboration and make sure there's compatible uses with the surrounding residential areas as well. So performance analysis, as noted, this would do 2 things, and so it would create a new zoning district if it goes forward, and it would also zone change those specified properties, and that would update the zoning map. Your role is not to make that final decision, so I'll talk about that as well. You're doing a recommendation this evening. So this is the current zoning map. So as I noted, it's largely residential, and so this here in kind of the bolder yellow, this is residential. This is R17, so 17 units per acre. The R12 are here, these little green ones. And so these are, we have handouts on our website, and I printed those out for the commission this evening, but this is what you would see. This comes straight out of our zoning code, and we made these handouts for the public, so you can see what are the uses that are allowed. So we have it divided into principal uses, we have accessory uses, and then we have uses that would be by special use permit that requires an additional public hearing. And so largely, so R12, those are those 2 green ones along Hubbard, single family and duplex are the primary uses on that. You can do home occupation, some other things allowed. That does include that community education as a permitted use. So I'll show you the C17L and the C17 PUD next. So these are these two areas. So similarly, so the C17L, so that's the commercial 17, and that's a limited commercial, so that restricts it down. You can see on the right, the C17 has a lot more uses that are allowed. Commercial, the C17 allows the gas stations that you would see, the big box stores, hotels, things like that, that would be more common with commercial throughout the city. And then C17L has a lot fewer uses, but you can request those same services by special use permit. And then I wanted to note the privately owned property, so you can see that, because we did receive at least one comment letter that came in. There's a little bit of concern on Military Drive. I'll show that slide next. But there are 2 properties on Hubbard that are privately owned, and these are the R12 properties. And then these properties with the stars are privately owned on Military Drive, and these are C17L. The rest of the properties on Military Drive are owned by North Idaho College. So how it was structured in the proposed ordinance, and I did make some copies for the audience this evening, but kind of establishes it so it would be built into our zoning ordinances. So it goes through and it talks about the district boundaries and all the typical things, and then it talks about those uses as I showed you on those little handouts. So it kind of goes, what are the uses permitted by right, what are the accessory uses, and then what are those special use permit uses. So there are a host of uses, and what staff did, again, looking at what exists now and looking at other university district zones throughout the state and elsewhere, just kind of what would be uses that should be permitted by right. That should be principal uses. And then what would be the accessory uses? So accessory uses would be things like accessory dwelling units that would be allowed for students or faculty housing, automobile parking, so parking lots, things like that, mail rooms, swimming pools, outside storage. So those are things we allowed by that. And then the special use permit, we included things such as the bed and breakfast facility, boarding house, home occupation, and hotel motel went integral to community education. So that would be, again, any of the ones under special use permit would require a public hearing before the Planning and Zoning Commission, and those would have conditions that would go with that. So I wanted to clarify that. And then also, the planned unit development that's in place now, it was approved in 2012 for North Idaho College, that would remain in place. So it would just kind of switch out what the zoning is underneath it. It wouldn't take that away. So this is an image from that approved planned unit development. This is their midterm phase. That was the 5 to 15 years. We're in that time frame now. And this is showing kind of the surface improvements, which is largely parking lots, and then some of the uses, the community gardens, and then some development areas where you've seen some of the buildings that have been built. And then here is their long-term phase in the PUD, and that's 15 to 50 years. So you can see a variety of different uses, academic structures, the professional technical education structures, parking garages, athletic structures, things like that. For prohibited uses, this would be, this is in this proposed ordinance as well, these would be uses that would not be allowed. So just restricting industrial uses, any residential development that is not associated with educational use, so not for students or faculty. And then anything that would be privately owned would be restricted, or anything that the planning director, which is me, would determine isn't suitable. It also has performance standards, so it has height restrictions, so nothing could be taller than 45 feet unless they came in for a variance. And then there are setbacks established, which are very consistent with our other zoning districts. So for the non-residential activities, any street frontage would have to provide 20 feet. The side interior would be a 10-foot setback. The rear would have a 10-foot setback. And then any U-district use shall be 25 feet from any residential property lines not associated with an educational use. So that was built in with this as well. And then any of the residential uses within the district would live by our R17 zoning district performance standards for setbacks. We also provided for kind of what they already have now, the campus style parking. So this really, everything that's in here supports what exists and what the vision is through the master plan that's already been adopted for the college and the planned unit development and all the work that's been done by the campus. So just wanted to clarify for yourselves and for the audience that really your role is just to make a recommendation this evening. You're not making the decision. This will go forward to City Council. You are required by not only our city code, but by state statutes to hold a public hearing. and to kind of weigh all the factors, hear from the community, consider the compliance with our comprehensive plan and consideration of existing zoning districts, and consider also the proposed boundaries, make any recommendations on that. A little bit of analysis of our comprehensive plan. So this was adopted in 2022. It's a 20-year plan looking at the future of the community. The higher education corridor and North Idaho campus is throughout this plan. You'll see here in Part 2, which is hard to see, but there's a lot of details about higher education. This is a very integral part of our community, very foundational, and has been here for a long time. North Idaho College was founded in 1933. There are different place types. You heard this in Mike's presentation prior to mine, but this has 2 place types associated with it for the campus. The civic is the one that really does apply, and that includes the boundaries here. And so this is for things such as a campus and public uses. And then place type also for the PUD, the planned unit development, you can see in here is that the PUD that exists, institutions and vocational schools. This is an action item in our comprehensive plan, so usually we don't drill down to this level, but I wanted to include this because this does talk about the on and off campus student and employee housing for North Idaho College, and they were specifically listed as the lead partner on this one. There's also goals and objectives under community and identity and environment and recreation. So it's great. We have a large number of community members here this evening. We want to have the community informed and weigh in these decisions and recommendations. And then the environment and recreation, just the location of this along the shoreline and the environmental impacts. Wanted to make sure that was included as well. Growth and development, the goals here with the developing a mix of land uses and recognizing neighborhood and district identities with kind of that interface that we have between the college and the campus and the surrounding neighborhoods. Again, increasing physical and visual access to the lakes and rivers. That was a concern when staff was putting this together. We didn't want to have development that could be along the whole shoreline and just kind of create that wall where you do take away that visual access or the public access. And then also protecting the historic resources. The campus has a number of our oldest structures in the city that were part of Fort Sherman. And then lastly, jobs and economy. So there's this objective here, expanding partnerships with North Idaho College as well. So financial analysis, this is something we wanted to include that we do typically in our staff reports to City Council. And so noted here that the no significant financial impact to the city if they were to adopt this zoning ordinance and rezone their properties, or to North Idaho College or the partner institutions. But it's worthy of noting that there are those 10 privately owned properties that would be impacted if they are rezoned. They would become legal non-conforming, and that does affect their ability in the future. If they were damaged and had to be rebuilt, then they would need to comply. So if they were built by more than, or if they were damaged by more than 50%, then they would need to comply. So that is of concern.
But their nonconformance can be sold and transfers with the
It can,
property. It's
correct.
not as if when they sell it, it is magically part of the university.
That is correct. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
So they absolutely, so anyone that lives there now owns a property, they can continue using it for their personal use. It doesn't have to meet any of the standards. And same with, if they sell it to someone
sell
else, it's
it.
great. It's just if it does get destroyed. And then if they were to do an expansion, that's another thing, right? If they were trying to like rebuild their home or something, then that would be kind of a challenge with the legal non-conforming, because that falls under our non-conforming section of the code. Rezoning procedures, so again, your role is to make a recommendation. So we have a public hearing this evening, and then we are looking at a public hearing to be scheduled on September 3rd before the City Council. So they would hold the hearing and then make a determination on that. So your role this evening is to make findings regarding the compliance of the new zoning district and proposed rezone of the specified properties with the comprehensive plan and make a recommendation to the City Council. And you have a variety of options. So if you like it as is, you can make that recommendation. You can make modifications to the ordinance. So that would be modifications or amendments to the article. And if you like the boundaries, that's great. Or you can recommend changes to the boundaries. If you wanted to exclude any of the properties, say along Military Drive, so that you're not having that legal nonconformity issue. Or you could recommend that they reject it altogether. So you have those options.
North Military includes 8 properties, then those
There are-
2 oddballs on
Those are on Hubbard,
Hubbard.
yes.
But they are in, yeah, they're
Right.
just little dots. Okay.
As noted, you can make recommended changes to the zoning boundaries, and then lastly, you can defer action if you feel that there needs to be further studies or more information brought before you. And that concludes my presentation. Happy to
Questions?
Answer any
Go ahead, John.
questions.
So a couple written comments we got just like today, and Tracy sent to us, and one I think is a gentleman that I'm guessing has a house out there on Military, and he says, "The proposed zoning removes my ability to use my property as an owner-occupied residential property." And I think Lynn has covered that a little bit, but as I understand it, it does not.
Correct.
You can continue as you are. Not only that, you could even sell it, correct?
That is correct, but there, knowing that it's legal non-conforming, that might be a challenge in a real estate transaction.
Yeah, if you renovate it into a boarding house, maybe it's student-focused, that
Right.
might
Right.
make you conform. So, if it's a large house and you want to subdivide it, make it into student housing, rentals, Airbnb, whatever, it can still be done under this.
Go ahead, John.
So the finding that we have to make, as you well know, whether there's a significant financial impact, and you say that there isn't, it's harder for me, in my mind, to understand that with respect to, say, one of those 10 houses. Take that off the table. One of the written comments from NIC person, a board member, said, he questioned whether there's a financial impact to NIC, and I struggle with that one. How did you come to the conclusion in your mind that there isn't? I mean, a zone change in and of itself doesn't drive a financial change.
Right.
It doesn't restrict their ability to do anything. It might make things actually more flexible.
Right, and that was staff's opinion. So in looking at everything that's included in this draft ordinance, it actually makes it so it's more consistent with what their vision is for the future with their master plan and the planned unit development and what exists today. As I was reading through the R17 list you saw on there, there's not a lot of specificity. And even if you look at, it says community education, well, it just says uses supporting education for universities or colleges. It doesn't really say, oh, well, what if I want a vocational school, or I want a maker space, or I want to have like an auto mechanic space for our students. It doesn't clarify some of those things that might be a little unusual. Same with having childcare facilities on the campus, which is very important for them. They have that, so there's certain things that it's unclear with the current zoning, and this actually would kind of tighten it up. It might say these are all uses that NIC and the affiliated universities would like to have. And so it's, creating a little bit more guidance and structure for them.
And lastly, you touched on it to begin the presentation, and the clarity of, the why. What is driving this? What's council's motivation? What's the driver here? And you point out the comp plan, and as we well know, education and higher education, and I see the importance with respect to job creation and with respect to, it says in the comp plan that education is our future. Our future. I mean, and education and jobs are weaved throughout the comp plan. And so that's the importance of NIC, U of I, the consortium, higher ed is huge in the comp plan, and it was in the previous comp plan, was it not?
It was, yes.
I mean, there's kind of, in my mind, 3 things in this area that are must protect things. One is the quality of life, things like Tubbs Hill and public access to waterfront. 2, health, and it's in the comp plan too, our health campus. And as we've seen the increasing capabilities there and what that does to drive the economy here and provide us a place when we need a heart transplant or whatever, I mean, they can do amazing stuff up there. Third thing is education and education corridor. Those are the 3 must protect things. But so that's said, I guess, just to underscore what you said, if if you haven't read a newspaper or two in the last few years, NIC's accreditation is very much in jeopardy, is it not? And there's worrisome about the future there, and what happens to an unaccredited NIC, and what happens to that, what'd you say, 54 acres or whatever it is, you know? If and when that important education goal. So this is about protecting the use, is it not?
That's correct.
Thank you.
I have a clarifying question, I guess, too, on how you started it. Was city council initiated? Is that what you said? Have they had a workshop on this, or is it mostly staff at this point, and then we recommend, and then it goes to council?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And then one note I had on here, under the performance analysis, you said that you put public education, and then does that kind of tie into the ordinance, like not a private educational entity, but a public educational entity?
Correct. So yes, in the purpose statement and generally, it is noted throughout that it's for public higher education
Only.
institutions. That's the intent of it.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Patterson, really appreciate that. No, a university district is very common over the country, designed to ensure the integrity of an educational institution. It's run 32 miles away from here, if anyone was wondering what they look like. And I was wondering, you showed a master plan for the school, an advanced master. Who prepared that, and did the city have any input into it?
My recollection is that North Idaho College and their partners prepared that, and then that was approved by them, and I believe then the city council adopted it, so that it's
But
part of the comprehensive plan.
If this district is designated for the property, anything going forward, they would have to come back to the planning commission or the city council to ensure that they weren't creating a negative overspill on the community, if you will, not controlling their parking, not controlling their street alignments, and so on. So basically, this simply gives the city more authority to ensure that as an educational facility, it grows with some type of common sense to it, if you will. And that any negative impacts as the school should expand would be minimized by the virtue of being part of a designated zoning district. Does that sound
It's a
right?
difficult one to answer because right now, the current, how it's set up for the campus right now and through their planned unit development is it's supposed to be campus-style parking. We recognize that. The city is fine with that, and that's how it's drafted in this proposed ordinance. So we're not trying to crack down and say they need to change anything. I guess it just provides more certainty for the community as a whole, as well as for North Idaho College on what uses are allowed. So I don't know, I think no matter what zoning, we can always work with them as collaboratively to say, hey, you know, maybe you're having too much overflow parking impacts on the neighborhood. Could we reevaluate your campus
you.
parking?
Go ahead.
Thanks. Hillary, I've got one for you, and it has to do with the notification process.
Okay.
One of the correspondents we got mentioned they were not notified. Can you tell us how NIC was notified?
Yes. So they were part of the list of 115
Yep.
that was sent out. So it was sent to the attention of the president. And so I'm not sure
Where it
how the
goes from
correspondence
there?
went from there.
Understood.
So that, yeah, the legal requirement when we send those out, it just goes to the property owner on record. And so we just send it to their primary mailing address, and it went with the others. And we have an affidavit of mailing that was included in the mailing labels.
Great.
That
Thank
all
you,
went
Hillary.
out. So there might have been some complications
Sure.
once it arrived.
Okay, any other questions of Hillary right now? No? Okay, Hillary, thanks.
You're very welcome.
I'm going to open up the public comment on this. Are we going to have a time clock on?
3 minutes.
Yep, okay. So there's a time clock there when you come up and speak. I'd appreciate if you keep your comments to that. It would indicate when it's over. I'm going to swear everyone in that wants to speak, and if you don't think you want to or you change your mind, I'm just going to have one swear-in so I don't have to do it a number of times that I have for the people on the swear-in sheet. So if you can just say yes after I make the statement. Do you solemnly swear and/or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Okay, first one we have is Joseph Brown. Okay, Joe, go ahead. You
Hi,
have
Commissioners.
3 minutes.
My name is Joseph Brown. I'm the owner at 735 Military Drive. I believe Commissioner Ingles read a portion of my my comment. But fundamentally, I would just like to request that the commission amend the proposal and exclude the properties on North Military Drive. And like I said, I submitted comment, but I also would just maybe during questioning, you could direct a few questions to staff. And I believe staff did speak to this, but hypothetically, if my property is destroyed, I would not be able to occupy it as a resident. I wouldn't be able to rebuild and occupy. The next question was, hypothetically, my neighbor could build a 45-foot structure adjacent to my home. Right now it's 35 feet. They could build a 45-foot structure next to my home and have it be student housing. So anyways, that was my overall comments. Just request an amendment. Not necessarily opposed to having a university district. I don't think that, I think it's reasonable and logical. It's just the North Idaho College does not own all of those properties. So thank you, and thank you for your service.
Hillary, how can you address that one question you had about living there now? And I know we spoke about it a little bit. I think that might be some of the properties. And I guess when we do bring this for discussion, we can make a recommendation to take some of those properties out.
Absolutely. Yep, the finding could do that. And I do want to clarify on the height thing. So C17L, so if you have residential within that, it falls under residential performance standards, but commercial doesn't have a height limit. So someone could go 45 feet next to them with a C17L use that's not residential. But yes, absolutely, if you make a recommendation, excuse me, you can say we'd like to move forward, but we'd like to exclude whatever portion of the boundary. You could certainly do
Okay.
that. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Glenna Craper? Craper, close, okay.
Okay, well, I'm one of the oddball houses.
Okay,
I'm the private home right across from Boswell Hall. And I've lived there. My second husband bought it in the 70s, and I married him in 92, and I've lived there since 92. I may be selling it in a few years and probably offering it to the college, but I'm concerned, am I going to be kicked out or what,
Nope.
Okay,
Nope, we're not going to take away
no,
your
you're not
house.
gonna be kicked
Nope.
out,
okay, until I'm willing to sell, right?
and you can sell,
And you can
Okay.
sell it as a residence.
And it wouldn't have to be to the college necessarily.
No,
not if you don't want to.
no,
Okay, all right,
you're safe.
good.
Enjoy.
I just didn't want to be kicked out.
No, you are not being
Okay,
kicked out.
thank you.
That's called a taking,
All right,
and that's
thank
not
you.
allowed in the state of Idaho.
Huh?
All
It's
right.
called a taking when you do that, and that's not allowed in
Okay,
the state of
all right. The
Idaho.
presentation was
Where else?
very good, but a little too fast for some of us older people who
There's a lot going on.
are used to people talking a little slower.
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll keep that in mind. Joe Alferreira is opposed but did not indicate if you want, you're coming up, Joe?
Thank you. I'm Joe Alfieri, and I have the honor of representing the residents of Coeur d'Alene in the Idaho legislature. I just have a couple of questions here, and my proposal is that you would actually set this aside for further study, because I see a couple of issues here. One is potentially a takings issue, where you have the city taking the property of an elected, of another elected entity, which is the North Idaho College. And I would also contend that while you may have notified the presidents of the college, you did not notify the Board of Trustees, who are the people that would make decisions. So I've got a couple of concerns there. I had more, some of which you did address, but my proposal to you, my suggestion to you would be.
You're welcome. David, I can't make out your last name. Ben?
Riley, that's Riley.
Okay, Riley.
That's Riley.
Sorry about the confusion. My name is David Riley. I'm from Post Falls, and I'm here because this is an issue that affects our entire county, our entire region, not just the city of Coeur d'Alene. And that's why we have a university district with elected trustees that we go to the ballot box and choose every couple of years. And I noticed how irregular this is because of the way that this is being requested. Normally, it would be a landowner or a property owner seeking a rezone change for something that they would want. This is coming from the city of Coeur d'Alene, stepping over onto another elected board and their political jurisdiction. And what's really interesting is that actually today, independent journalist Casey Whalen released some emails from Coeur d'Alene City Councilor Christy Wood saying, quote, "I proposed the idea to Troy of a rezone at the college's request." So I've been made aware that the trustees have not, in fact, passed any resolutions or made any kind of outreach to the city for this zoning change. So I don't think that the NIC is asking for this, and if they are, I'm curious who that person is, because it does not seem to be the Board of Trustees. So that is highly irregular as well. And I would just like to conclude by saying that there has been a lot of issues of overreach and overstepping and interference at North Idaho College from people that have resigned from the board, people that were never elected for other reasons that we aren't fully aware of at this point. So I would actually ask you to reject this proposal and allow the Board of Trustees to vote on a motion and bring it before Planning and Zoning so that it can be done all above board. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Ron Mendeville is opposed, do not wish to, you coming up? Okay, Ron, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm
You're welcome.
Ron Mendive, and I actually represent the District 5 in the Idaho Legislature as well. Most of the things I was going to say have pretty much been said. However, I would like to point out that this does constitute a taking. When the city attorney, in his letter about this, he looked into that issue, whether or not it was a taking, and the question wasn't, was it a taking? The question was more, who had the authority, more authority? Was it the Board of Trustees or the city, who was higher up on the food chain that could actually make the decision? And basically, they're talking eminent domain to take over the property. Eminent domain has been misused in the past in certain areas, and this would be another one. The trustees who are duly elected, it's a community college, are duly elected, and they have not been brought in this loop. I've been told that they were not notified until just a couple days ago. And the same thing with me. I've been working with those guys on the accreditation issue, which has come up here, which I believe we're going to be able to resolve. However, and I don't see how this would help the accreditation issue. It's still a problem, and I think, I believe we're going to be able to fix that. If not, through the accreditation agency, I think we can do some things legislatively there, because there are some issues in Florida and different states. Things need to be looked at. So anyway, most of the stuff I had to say has been said, but I would ask you guys to hold up on this until we get more information out for the people, because this came up very quickly and most of us did not know about it. I do not take the press, so I didn't see it in there. And so anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman. Can I
Go ahead, if you
ask
have a
Randy a
question.
question?
Hillary.
Randy, I got a question for you on defining a taking and who is the owner at the end of a taking action?
Complicated question. It can be taken physically, it can be taken by regulation.
Okay, and if
So
it's,
no, at this point, no party has requested a takings analysis, which can be requested
okay,
prior to any taking. This is not eminent domain. No property is being physically taken by the city. This is a rezone. Rezones are done all the time, and the ordinance and statutes allow the council to initiate.
That the college is an asset to this community, and that higher education is an asset to this community. And I hope that we all see the wisdom in moving forward with protecting that with this kind of university district. So I hope that you recommend it. Thank you.
Thank you. William Elliott is in favor and does wish to speak.
Thank you. I live at 335 Park Drive, which is in the Fort Brown neighborhood, which is an immediate neighbor to the to the area we're talking about. I'm in support of establishing University District Zone. This would assure that this land is dedicated to public higher education in perpetuity. And I think that's a wise thing to do. As was mentioned by staff, it's consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. It's prudent to make this designation, I believe, to protect this very valuable property. And when I talk about valuable, you look at that land, that's got to be some of the most valuable land in North Idaho that we're talking about. To protect it so that it's not used for other commercial purposes. It's the responsibility of the citizens to look out for the long-term interests of its citizens and of this community. And this is about leadership. I think it's right for the city to take this leadership and not leave it in the hands of others who may have some other plans. Not taking this action would leave the fate of this property in the hands of people who might decide to use it for other economic gain. And I think it's wise for the city to step in, because if you didn't take such action, it could have huge negative consequences, not only for the neighborhood, but even much more profound for this city and for North Idaho. So this is about leadership. Sometimes people don't like it, but I think it's a wise thing for the city to do, to take this University District Zone and protect this for the long-term interests of this community. So I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Gregory McKenzie is opposed, is neutral, and does want to speak.
Hello, thank you for letting me be here. My name is Gregory McKenzie, 12597 North Emerald Drive in Hayden. I do have a question, and looking at this, I feel like your question might have been inaccurate. If that lady's house was destroyed, say more than 50%, say 75% for completely flooded, would she still be able to live in her home?
No.
The question is no. So if your house flooded, say completely, like a contractor left a valve open, like I happen to have personal experience, then you would not be in your home.
More than
address the council?
More than 50%.
More than 50%.
Correct. A flood doesn't usually do more than 50% damage.
I happen to actually be living through a flood right now with
And
more than 50%.
I do flood
so-
work all the time, so yeah.
Okay. So, I'm speaking as an individual and not on behalf of the NIC Board of Trustees, of which I also am a member. And we did not get this information handed to us as the Board of Trustees, as the chair noticed in his statement, saying that it was not properly noticed to us. This university district gives the appearance that the education neighbors are bad neighbors and predatory, who are trying to acquire more residential properties. For example, if anything happened, like I just talked about, that lady would not be able to live. I'm skipping them. That's why people have insurance, because accidents happen, and by passing this, the college would be seen as predatory. In addition, due to the increased political tensions, especially around NIC, this would create an incentive for individuals to cause harm to the houses of people within the zone. Given the recent alleged arson of the Army surplus store, there is precedent to believe people will act on this incentive to get what they want. This district change is simply a taking where we don't want people to feel coerced to sell. NIC has wonderful relationships with its neighbors, and history has demonstrated this coercion is not required for NIC to succeed. Additionally, the height requirement of 45 feet limitation would likely conflict with possible building plans that was mentioned to me by the NIC's president as a possibility to address student needs. There are student needs the college is working to thoughtfully address. Property plans are being thoughtfully addressed through the master plan. All this university district seems to do is force another layer of bureaucracy to deal with, as the college pivots to the needs of the students. There have been significant efforts to demonize the NIC trustees, and this plan, like other recent actions, could result in a crisis which result in trustees being accused of things which they did not do and could not stop.
Thank you. Hillary, clarification again. You know, you had a slide up there, and we talked about residential houses in this supposedly new district. I think there was, what, 8, 9?
10.
8 on Military, 2 on.
10 total, 8
10
on
total.
Military Drive and 2 on Hubbard.
2 on Hubbard,
So,
which is one of the
again,
latest.
we can make a recommendation and also exclude any of those properties if we wanted to, which would perhaps safeguard some concerns about rebuilding or not rebuilding, regardless of the percentage that has to be rebuilt.
Correct.
And it wouldn't be, those properties would not be affected at all, and they can just go along as if this new district wasn't approved by city council.
That's
Am I
correct. So
correct?
I have on the screen, this one shows the 2 properties on Hubbard,
Uh-huh.
and then this one shows the 8 on Military
Right,
Drive.
so we can make a recommendation to exclude those properties.
Correct.
And they'll just go along as they've been going along
Keep the
for
current
how
zoning.
many years it has been.
That's correct.
Okay.
I had,
Thank you.
when I walked away, I had 55 seconds.
Excuse me?
When I walked away, I had 55 seconds. Can I make one more sentence? If, I would like to give the college time to do research, because I believe when the land was granted to us, that it was deed restricted. So this whole urban renewal district threat of the land going to somewhere else, I don't know where that comes from. I've never been in any conversation where that has ever even come up, but I believe it's completely unnecessary because I believe the land is deed restricted. I would appreciate if you'd give the college time to get back to you because on if it's even necessary.
All right.
So
Thank
I
you.
feel like this is a twofold plan to make NIC the bad guys when the owners will inevitably have to sell their properties dirt cheap to the college.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Hillary, I'm really curious now. So if you're in a residentially zoned neighborhood or a C-17L neighborhood and your house floods more than 50%, apparently you can still live in it?
Well, it's more that you can, so you, that's a different question. If your house is uninhabitable, that's different than if you can build it back and use it for that same use. So if it
Okay.
becomes legal non-conforming, so we've
Okay.
had that happen in a number of situations where
Fair
something
enough.
gets annexed in.
Non-conforming.
Then it's legal
Understood.
non-conforming,
Got
but
it.
then when it changes, so if you either want to rebuild it yourself and expand upon it, then the expansion has to comply with the code, or in this case, the use also, they'd have to comply with the use.
Thank you.
Catherine Boss is in favor and does wish to speak.
Thank you for taking up this issue. I'm also a long-term resident of the Fort Grounds, and the Fort Grounds homeowners were concerned about the loss of accreditation of the college. Hopefully, that isn't going to happen, but if it does, the part of the college property, like Hillary was showing, is protected as public use only. My understanding is there are other pieces that the college has purchased over the years that don't fall under that. And so I think they would not be safe if the college was to lose accreditation. So all of this, in my opinion, from my understanding, is happening because of the possibility of the college losing accreditation. The college is a great neighbor, and it's great for the community. I'm a graduate of NIC. 2 of my kids are graduates of NIC, and keeping the college a public college is really important to the community, as we all know. So anything we can do to help to take care of it and protect it. I don't think anyone is demonizing the board. I think they have mismanaged their responsibility and has put us all in this situation. And if the properties that are not currently owned by the college, if they can be left out so that the neighbors weren't concerned about their private property, maybe that would be more comfortable. I don't know that it has to include those 8 plus 2 properties. No one's talking about taking any properties. But I do think as a property owner down there, that if the college was to lose accreditation and that property be changed to something completely different, it would affect everyone's property values down there. as well as the benefit that the college provides to the community. So I'm in support of the university regulation, designation, whatever. Thank you.
Thank you. Elaine Hehan is neutral, did not indicate if you wanted to speak. Andy Wilson is neutral, did not indicate if you wanted to speak. Julie Yater is opposed and does want to speak.
Hi.
Hello.
It's Yetter, like better.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Hillary, I appreciate everything you did because you answered a lot of my questions. That was a lot more comprehensive than the worksheet. I grew up in Moscow, Idaho, so I'm a native of Idaho. My parents were professors at University of Idaho and WSU, so I know all about campus life. We lived one street off campus my entire growing up experience. And so I have some different kinds of questions than have been asked so far. But I also really appreciate some of the things that people have shared. I think that it's important when we have elected officials like the trustees that we not usurp them. I've been a school principal in the area, both at Genesis Prep when it was founded and at CCS up in Hayden Christian Center School. We went through accreditation. I know all about the ins and outs of how difficult that can be. And I think that the trustees were unfairly represented in the press here. It's difficult with people with different ideologies come together as elected officials, as I'm sure you're aware, to come to agreement oftentimes. And the threat of losing accreditation was more of a motivation by the accrediting agency, I know from experience, than it was an actual outcome that was expected to have happen. I think the trustees did need some motivation, and it worked, and that they are working together now to try and, come to consensus. And I think we should let them be part of this process rather than exclude them. They are elected officials. However, I also live in the area. I live at 206 Hubbard, which is right across the street from Gizmo, and have some concerns about what would happen to that area, particularly parts of the ownership of NIC that are not part of the original deeded titled campus. NIC has done a great job at buying up some properties on Military and Hubbard and the Grill, and those properties could be sold off to hotels at this point because they aren't part of the deeded title. However, it is my understanding that when the sawmill titled that property to NIC, it was already protected as an educational use only property. Is that not true?
Civic.
I was not able to find documentation of any of those protected deeds.
Okay.
The only thing I found was the quitclaim deeds on some of the properties on Military Drive.
Okay, so the original title search for the campus wasn't.
Staff didn't conduct that. That's not part of our process. And
Well, I know it's out there, so I'll try and help you find it. Because of that, there's some language in here that concerns me about bed and breakfasts, hotels, those kinds of things that would be privately owned and for profit, and what will happen in the future when this board and the city council that are currently here are not here. And an example of that, in my opinion, was the Thomas George. That should have had a height restriction and never been built there.
Well, let me just clarify something about the Thomas George.
Okay.
That was a C-17 zone.
Yeah.
It didn't have to come between this body or city council. They did it by right. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Glenn Douglas is neutral. And Tim Zazadin is opposed and neutral, but did not indicate you wanted to speak. Okay. That is the last person I have signed up. If anyone wants to speak that isn't on the That's signed up, come on up.
Oh, got
Well,
two.
we got ladies first. And just sign the sheet hello, ma'am, can you sign the sheet before you leave? Not right now, after you speak. Thank you.
I'm Teresa Roth. I'm just going to focus on one issue. I just want to, my background, I've read the Education Corridor Plan, which was from 2008. I've read the old CDA Comprehensive Plan. I've read the new CDA Comprehensive Plan. A lot of stuff about these things doesn't quite make sense, so I'm just going to focus on what doesn't make sense to me. I think the original corridor plan had sort of two visions. One was a low-density education-only development, and that was called Alternative A, and then there was a, more high-density, get the private developers in there that's, plan Alternative B. And to some extent, you kind of got the impression from reading the Education Corridor Plan that there was some people who kind of wanted to have options for private development. So far, so good. That's 2009, and it resulted in, making a decision to redo River Road and put in the thing of trees. So stuff got done, but it wasn't like that document tells you what we're going to be doing now. So fast forward to the comprehensive plan, that whole area is defined as planned unit development. Not only that, but this thing that you're proposing only applies to a planned unit development. And I don't understand, because when you read the current CDA comprehensive plan, page 52, it says, planned unit development places are locations that, quote, have completed the planned unit development application process. To my knowledge, there has been no planned unit development process applied for this. I certainly can't find it. It doesn't make any sense that it would exist, especially if the trustees who are effectively the owners of it and were the owners in 22 when this future land use map was made. I don't understand why that whole area is even defined as a planned unit development, or why it should be developed as a planned unit development, and therefore I don't understand why this university district, which supposedly limits development but only applies to PUD, makes any sense at all. So it's not that I'm for or against. I think the whole zoning in the comprehensive plan doesn't make sense, and I think the whole idea of applying the university district to a planned unit development which has not been designed and shouldn't even be in there. So I would say just back off and make it clear. I would, if I had been doing the comprehensive plan, I would have made the whole thing civic, because it is owned by the city, and then eventually, as it makes sense to develop parts of it, which we don't know what now, but we shouldn't limit ourselves in the future, the Board of Trustees and the owner of it can figure it out. The original plan, like I said, had two paths. One was low development, university only. That was Plan A. That was submitted by NIC. The more high-density development was submitted by the University of Idaho, which is a go, go, go. Let's do planned unit developments and public partners, because they are not, of course, elected. Their board of directors appointed, not elected. So I just don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Just make sure you sign the sheet. Come on up. Just, Mark, just give it to us. Go ahead.
Hi. My name is Howard Coons. I didn't intend to speak, but the subject of accreditation has come up I feel like I need to. This whole accreditation thing began with supposed human rights violations. And you probably know that Christy Wood is very high up in all of that. The threat of accreditation has been a leverage to keep the conservative majority from doing what they wanted to do. And the fact that Christy Wood is on the city council and this proposition comes from the city council, there's no way that I can trust that they have good intentions. It's just more manipulation. I'm not sure what else to say. I've just really been disturbed to see the good people who were elected to the board of North Idaho College their reputations have been attacked, and the press is just constantly making it seem like they're the bad ones. I'll say one more thing. Idaho law says that the president of the college serves at the will of the board. It was the will of the board to put that president on administrative leave. Now, the judge ruled that they had to take him back, but that's against the law. That's what you call lawfare. It's like warfare using the law. They shouldn't have had to have that president back. They should have been able to do what they wanted to do to get another president, but they have been forced because of this threat of accreditation to do nothing. Because if they don't do what the accreditation board wants to do, then they'll tell them that they're going to lose their accreditation. So their hands are tied. They've been neutered. And it's all just a plan that started with Christy Wood and the human rights people.
Thank you for your time. Sir, if you can just sign the sheet, sir?
I will.
Yeah, it's right there. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Come on up, and whoever, first come, first serve. Come on up. Come.
I also had not planned on speaking tonight. My name is David Hoskins. I live in Hayden, but I taught at NIC for 18 and a half years. Both my daughters graduated from NIC. One is an architect, one's an engineer. NIC is a wonderful institution, and I plead with you, the board, to do anything and everything to save this college. If you read the paper, and I know you do, every article I've read over the last 2 years is a concerted effort to close NIC down. It's not the students who have lost accreditation. It certainly is not the teachers who've lost accreditation. And I read things in the paper, about all the teachers are teaching Marxism and socialism, all this nonsense. I taught speech communication. There was never a word in 18 and a half years about anything that was not about giving speeches and making better speakers. There was no talk of socialism or communism or any other nonsense. Please save this school. Please, if you can, put up one more line of defense before the school is lost. Please. And I don't just speak for myself. I speak for, I believe, the majority of Coeur d'Alene. It is a wonderful institution, and once accreditation is gone, it will not come back. Thank you.
Thank you. No? Hillary, is there anything that we heard tonight you want to add to?
I think most of the stuff was probably covered, but I do want to clarify, there was the little bit of confusion about the comprehensive plan and the plan unit development and the civic designation. So let me go back to that. Let's see. Okay. So the comprehensive plan place type, all of NIC is civic. Then a portion of it is PUD. And NIC was the ones that brought forward, so the public can see. There's a PUD that NIC brought forward that was approved in 2011. And we have the final planned unit development that came to staff November of 2012. And so that is North Idaho College's planned unit development that was adopted and is how they bring forward their project. So this is that area that isn't included in that boundary, and I'll show you on the one zoning map. So this is the PUD boundary. The PUD doesn't apply to anything else, and what we're showing for the University District proposed boundary is all of this in black. So it is confusing. So I just wanted to clarify that. I think we already talked about the height limits.
So was that PUD adopted by the city then? Once it was provided by NIC, it was adopted by the city?
Correct. So it's same as the planned unit development that comes before this body.
And that may have been under different political board members.
Correct.
That stands as a
This
legal
stands.
document.
That's
So to say
correct.
there's no PUD, there is a PUD.
Correct.
Correct.
Yes. So this is on record. This is what
They
North Idaho
originated.
College uses.
They originated. It may not have been that board, but it was originated by a board in
Yes.
2011.
That is correct.
And branded into record 2012.
How the proposed ordinance is written is that would remain in place, so that wouldn't go away. We wanted to respect that as we were drafting this, so I just want to clarify that. I think those were the main things that were related to staff, unless you had any
I have a
questions?
question on
Sure.
the military drive. I think you have
Yes.
a zoomed in version of that.
Sure. These ones.
And like the PUD goes around that little section. So if those 8 properties were excluded, or I guess alternatively like that street, then the properties that NIC does own, they could, at some point in the future, if they wanted to develop or whatever, they could request the same zoning as the rest of the property.
Correct, and that's how staff, as we were kind of talking through this, once we were hearing more of the community concerns or the individuals that own properties, the easiest way would probably just be to exclude all of Military Drive, so kind of go behind it and around it, so that
Yeah, I don't have an
all of those properties would keep their existing zoning, and in the future, if this zoning district comes into place, and if North Idaho College wanted, once they had acquired these, then they could ask to rezone it to University District or not.
Yeah,
But-
because the ones they own, I mean, at least it's my understanding that the ones they do own are rented to faculty and that sort of thing. So they're a residential use as well.
Correct.
But if we excluded those, we can protect the neighborhood, all of those on Military Drive.
Street, yeah.
The whole street, and then we could protect the existing neighbors. And then if those properties that are owned by NIC want to come back and put a dorm there, excuse me, they would have to come back to this body to put a dorm in a
Correct.
existing residential neighborhood.
Right, unless, well, that's zone C17L, so we would have to look and see.
So we
It's a
could make a
dorm.
recommendation
Private.
to exclude military, like you
keep the
said.
character of that
Right,
neighborhood,
and
yeah.
what about Hubbard? There's a few up there as well. What's,
You could also exclude those, so you could have the boundary go around and keep those, the R12 properties
okay.
as they are. So
So
you
we
could
can
just say, we
ex-
want to exclude any of those ones, and then exclude anything on Military Drive.
Okay,
So you'd probably, and you would want to include, I think this, it's just any of the homes and the buildings on there, but this is to the east of it, so this is open land right now. This would probably want to have the University District boundary, I would believe, so that could kind of come up here and touch.
okay. Any other question? Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah. Hillary, right now, we have a list of different zoning types in the city of Coeur d'Alene. There's not one that says U at the top in bold letter with a bunch of bullets underneath that. Did you make up U, or did you bring that from somewhere else?
So in looking at all the other communities, that's what they did. So
Okay.
looking Moscow, Boise, Pocatello.
Brought some benchmarks together, and in any one of those cases, did you have a university say, whatever you do, please don't turn us into a university district, because that's going to harm our ability to educate people? Did you
I-
ever see anything?
Not seen that. I'm not sure. Randy did a lot of the research. I'm not sure if he encountered that or not.
I didn't see how those were implemented, just that virtually every city in Idaho that has an institution of higher learning has a university district.
And did you see any pushback from the universities on this is going to be detrimental to our ability to educate the community?
I didn't see that. I didn't see any lawsuits about it either.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Helen before I let her sit down again? Thank you. Okay, I'm going to close public comment and testimony on this and bring it to the commission for discussion.
I'd like to start with some discussion that I'd like to go to the comp plan, and, we spent how long on making the comp plan? It was 18 months, tons and tons of people. This is a ton of community involvement in this comp plan. And one of the things that just leaps out at there is the importance of education, higher education, and also jobs. And, you know, there's clearly a symbiotic relationship between education and jobs, and we need to protect that. You know, the comp plan says, you know, very clearly that NIC and U of I and the consortium with Lewis and Clark, the higher ed corridor, is our future. It says that. It's our future. And I believe that. And I'm with Kevin Jester, who spoke up here today. It said that NIC and the higher education corridor is a huge asset to this community. And he says we need to protect it with a university district, and I agree with that. And I agree with Mr. Elliott over there, who said that we need to, you know, this is an opportunity, and he talked about leadership. I don't do leadership from here so much as advise, but I hope the council sees the wisdom and the leadership to keep this land in perpetuity. Forget about the deeds and all that. This is the city council does zoning, and that's a leadership opportunity to keep this land in perpetuity forever. And we take away that big question mark out there, that what could happen to that extremely viable, valuable land? Do we want high-rise condos in C-17 and 34 and all that? So I'm with those folks. I would say, I think I would prefer that we exclude military and this nice gal's house over here on Hubbard and the other one. So there.
Thanks, John.
You guys go ahead.
Phil, go right ahead. I'll get to you.
You know, I think about this and listen to the people in the educational area. Why do we object to anything that enhances that educational environment, controls what will be in there as far as the types of development? And it's only a district boundary change.
Mm-hmm.
Every other group, organization in the city, whether it's a school board district, Post Falls, Coeur d'Alene, fire district, they have to abide by the zoning that the city creates. So within that zoning, we're not interfering with the work of any other elected officials or college president. They have to go through a process that the rest of us do. I want to add on here and I want to do this. Well, there's one limitation. It better be tied into education. Now that to me has nothing to do with accreditation, and I know what's going on, but that has nothing to do with the decision we make here. The decision is a district boundary change on this property appropriate. It's not a taking. We're not interfering with any trustees and their jurisdiction. They can still go forward and try to buy whatever they want. It's just going to be within that zoning district. And the whole effort here is to ensure compatibility of this development, which is the essence of zoning. That's all we're doing. And I think it's a good thing to do, and I fully support it.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I just want to thank the city staff for putting forth this effort. It's a little embarrassing that it had to come from the city staff. You know, if there's other places around the state that have found value in protecting their institutions' domains by requesting that zone be changed to a university zone.
They still can do all of the uses that they're doing today, so I don't really feel that it's overly restrictive. It's more protective, and I fully support it.
Are you in agreement? Are you in agreement to leave out the North Military section, or do you want to exclude the 10 properties?
I think you
The whole street.
The
To
whole
keep that
street,
character
the whole
of that
street,
street,
and
yeah.
what about the two adjacent on?
Excluding the 10 and
The 10.
the street, yeah.
Yeah, it would be Hubbard and military.
Okay.
Correct? And-
Correct.
yeah.
Yep.
When you have
I agree with
anything-
everything everyone said, and I happen to have a son who's being urged by the hospital to get retrained as a rad tech, and if he doesn't have to get taught out, I'll be very delighted. So he's starting class in, let me think, a week. I'm very supportive of this. I'm very supportive of the college and the dedication as a U district. I was on staff at the University of Memphis. I taught in the Middle East. I respect that we raise our city when we raise our education, and nothing should stand in the way. So,
Thank you. And I also wanted to say, I agree with all my fellow commissioners, and I'm glad to see we are all in agreement over education and not fighting over what the educational corridor should be. So I'm very pleased with my fellow commissioners, and I hope the city council follows our recommendation. And I agree with Commissioner Kraken that whoever makes this motion or findings should include taking out Military and Hubbard, which I feel protects those neighborhoods and still lets the NIC Board of Trustees do what they want with the properties, and hopefully we can move forward on this.
And can I clarify, it looks like it would go to council September 3rd. Is that correct, Hillary?
That is correct, so that would be another public hearing.
So, we're merely a recommendation, but the elected officials of the city of Coeur d'Alene will also be taking public comment, right? Okay.
That is correct.
So, that being said, we do have to go ahead, John.
I would make a motion that we recommend moving forward with the University District with the exclusion of the 10 properties. I would make the
Well,
motion.
Excuse me, it's not just the 10 properties. If you can help us out here, Randy, with the,
Well, we do have a findings worksheet that needs to be gone through, rather than a simple motion, and you can include that exclusion in your work.
As a
in the
finding.
motion.
so,
Gotcha.
John, you want to make the findings on this, or?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So if we can
So-
move forward with that findings.
So the motion will be walking through findings. Bear with me, it's very tedious. But it'd be a motion for a recommendation to council to create the University District, excluding the Military Drive area.
What would,
And I'll walk it through that with the findings, but, and the 2 properties on Hubbard. I'm just prefacing where I'm going.
Yeah, I'm thinking, would it be all of Hubbard, Hillary, or
No,
just?
not
No,
all
just
of
the
Hubbard.
2
just those
properties.
2 parcels.
Those 2
Okay.
houses on Hubbard.
Dedicated.
I'll get to that.
okay.
So this matter is a matter that's come before the Planning and Zoning Commission tonight, August 13, 2024, to consider ordinance change 02-24, a request by the City Council to make a recommendation regarding the adoption of new Article 17 in Chapter 17.05 of the Municipal Code, creating a new zoning district called the University District, and a city council initiated zone change for specified properties located in and near the North Idaho College campus. The applicant is the city of Coeur d'Alene. The location is land located in and near the North Idaho campus. As described, we adopt in this motion a number of findings of fact that the Planning and Zoning Commission tonight finds that the findings of fact A through A10 have been established on a more probable than not basis, based on the record before it, and that the evidence and testimony presented at the public hearing tonight. The council also finds that facts A1 through A6, those are background facts established in the staff report and presentation, that there's no dispute on those matters. So A4 through A6 are background facts of record. Moving from there, A7, we make a finding of fact that the comp plan recognizes a higher ed corridor. It relates to special areas that are discussed relating to the NIC campus and higher ed corridor master plan. A8, we make a finding of fact that, the civic place type in this case is the planned development place type is a civic place type, rather. Excuse me. And as part of the civic definition that relates to schools and education, among other things. Two others, jobs and economy, JE1, because of the symbiotic relationship between education and jobs, and the ability to retain and grow business, we need education. JE1 ought to apply, as well as JE3. It talks about expanding, the partnership and the relationship with NIC and so forth. The partnership and the relationship with NIC and so forth. So JE3 will not have a demonstrable adverse impact on the delivery of services in any political subdivision, including public services, including school districts within the planning jurisdiction. And B4, that the proposed zoning amendment is in the best interest of the city and its citizens. And B5, that the proposed zone change for the specified properties is in the best interest of the city and its citizens. And with that, a decision point in the motion would be that the Planning and Zoning Commission, pursuant to the aforementioned, the foregoing findings of fact and conclusions of law, recommends that the City Council adopt with the amendment to exclude the military.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a
Seconded.
motion to adjourn. I have a second. All in
Opposite
favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.